Hello, everyone. Dr. Dietz here. We're getting ready for our Max Kids A to Z workshop here. So we're going to get started here in just a minute. We're going to be going over quite a bit here. I'm going to try and condense everything down as best I can. Bear with me. This is still a little new technology for me to be using here as we're going along with this here too. So also encourage everyone to share this, to create a watch party if you can. That's always going to help more people be able to see this. If you have to stop for a while, this is being recorded, so you will be able to go back and watch it later. There's going to be a lot of other information here. I'm going to have some great resources for you today. I want to try and be that resource for you. If you do have questions, feel free to type in right in the question part right here on the comment section, and we will respond to you. If not right live during this, we will right immediately after or tomorrow here also. So with that, we're going to get started here in just a minute. I'm going to take a drink of water here, and then we'll get going. So today is Max Kids A to Z. So we want our kids to be healthy. And we're going to start with all that. But first, just a little bit about me, who I am. We're going to be covering a lot of things here too. So what our office, our mission here, we want to reach as many people. We want to empower them to make healthy choices, to make those better choices for their life. And so that's what we want to start with that today. Obviously, our family is our number one thing. When asking people, what's the most important thing in your life, and they're going to say your family. And with that, your family's health. So as we go about today, we want to make sure that we're going along that path. I'm a doctor, been practicing for over 15 years now. Time flies by. I work with families. I work from kids from minutes old people all the way into their 90s. And I see people on a regular basis. I get to work with Olympic level athletes, professional level athletes, helping them everything from injuries to working on nutrition, all that. Been to several Olympics, got to see a lot of different cool things, but my favorite thing is really working with families and seeing whole families radically change their life and the health of their life. So we're going to go into how we're going to go about that a little bit here today as we go through these things. One of the biggest concerns we have here first is chronic diseases. Right now, 25% of children and adolescents have a chronic disease. So a quarter of kids have a chronic disease already. Okay, let that sink in for a minute. What does that mean, a chronic disease? So this is anything that's been lasting for over 3 months or so. If any type of inflammation. This is talking about those conditions that have been lasting for a while that just can't shake. Yes, it's normal to have some sniffles. Yes, it's normal to have a fever once in a while. Yes, it's normal to have all those things. This is your body doing good things. But when these things are lasting for longer than that, they're prolonged disease, then it's turned into chronic. And that's when it gets a little bit more scary. Actually, 5% of kids actually have multiple chronic diseases. So not just one, more than one. So we're talking asthma, we're talking eczema, we're talking ADHD, we're talking even autism, things like that. There's a lot of different things along the spectrum that we're talking about that are called chronic diseases, diabetes, a lot of these things. So how do we make sure that you're not one of them? And most importantly, that I should say that your kids are not one of them. Because right now we're talking with parents today. And so we want to make sure that your kids are healthy. They're the most important thing in your life. It's a scary word out there at times, especially as a new parent it can be. I know I have 2 kids myself, 10 and 8, and it seems like they're growing up faster and faster every day. So we want to make sure we're spending quality time with them, we're enjoying their time with them, but the average person spends over $9,000 a year on health. This is the average on a chronic condition for their kids. And so that's what we start looking at. Okay, where's it at? Now, my family, my kids think I don't have any chronic conditions. So that means someone else is making up for that down the road. So we look at the financial impact of that, how that really affects our family's lives. So we look at some of these conditions. I'm going to go over some of these here, some of the top 6 as we look at them. We have asthma, we have diabetes, not just type 1, but type 2 diabetes. We look at obesity. Obesity is another huge one as we look at this right now. I'm going to go into a little bit deeper a little bit later on here. ADHD, depression. Right now we look at depression. It's actually it's the second highest cause of death when we look at adolescents right now, according to the CDC. The second highest cause of death is actually suicide from depression. In adolescents, we look at our adolescents, should they be that stressed? Should they be that depressed? No. So this is a major problem. And it's, especially with everything going on right now, it's hard for kids to understand what's going on. It's hard for us adults to even understand what the heck's going on right now with everything in our society. So how are we dealing with that? How, helping them along the way with those things too. We're talking about obesity, like I said, a little bit more here, but also the other thing we look at is malnutrition. Now it's pretty hard to believe. It's a lot of people can't have their trouble wrapping around it right now, where obesity is such an epidemic in our country, but yet malnutrition is at the same time. So that means we're eating a ton of junk, but it's all the wrong stuff. So we're eating way too much material, and it's all the wrong stuff. And that's where our kids are becoming obese. And that really sets them up for trouble down the road as we look ahead. So we want to make sure that they're moving in the right direction, because it's really hard to reverse that once you start that ball rolling. I know we did really good at the very beginning with our kids. Really focused on making sure we're only giving them those healthy things. But guess what? They get on into school. They go to friends' birthday parties. There's pizza. There's ice cream. There's all these things like that. Once they've been introduced and had that stuff, I don't know about you, but I love ice cream. I mean, I love all those sweets and stuff too. Once you had it, it's hard to say, oh no, don't have that anymore. Of course you want more of that, especially when it's around in front of you. So you have to take everything with a grain of salt. You're not going to be the perfect parent. You're not going to give just the perfect food all the time. Give yourself some grace, first of all. That is okay. But we want to stay on a path. And we're going to give you some of those tips today, because I know there's a lot of questions of, what do I do? How do I do this? And so that's what we're going to talk about next, as we get into how do we actually prevent these things, especially in the early stages before it gets into something else. So it really starts in the beginning, and it starts with even before pregnancy here. It starts. Sorry, skipping ahead here. My computer's lagging on me here. It starts. Even before it starts the movement, it starts with you. And it's actually, and this is true in most things in life. It's all about you and where you're at. So when we're going through these things, we look at. Oh shoot! I just lost my stuff. Come on, can you help me here? So we look at where are we at and where that looks like for us. You're not. So we look at we're talking about womb. It actually starts with us. It starts with ourselves as we go through this. Here, sorry, we're having a little technical difficulties here. I just flipped the screen and it illuminated all my stuff here. So
VoiceOver speaks descriptions of items on the screen and can be used to control the computer
sorry,
using only your keyboard.
Okay. So bear with us just a minute here as we're trying to get this going here. I just lost everything, but we'll be back here shortly with it. I'm going to keep talking anyway, because hopefully you guys can still hear me and can maybe see some of our slides as we're going through it. So as we're doing this, we're looking at, okay, where does everything, it starts with our health. It starts with the womb. It starts with ourselves. Who are you? What are you doing? What are you putting in your body? And it doesn't work to tell your kids one thing and you need to do this, but then you do something totally different. I think it looks like we're back. Awesome. Great. Yeah. Cool. Thank you. And then go right to here. Otherwise that's good. Just to the arrow down here. Oh, no.
The rest of you.
Okay. And now we're back to where we were. So, sorry, bear with us here. A little technical difficulties as we're going through this here. So, get it here. Okay. We'll work through this here. I'm gonna do it. No, I just lost it again. So I apologize here, trying to find out what's this way. Hopefully you guys can see the right things here. All right. Okay. I'm good now. Okay. So it starts with yourself, and you are the example. If you're struggling with it, guess what? They're going to struggle with it. You can't tell them to do something that you're not doing yourself. So that's the hard news for you guys tonight, that it starts with you. But then from there, it starts with in the womb. So again, as the mother, whatever you eat, the baby's getting to. So make sure you're getting the proper things with all that. So we want to go there with everything. Next, we want to look into as they're born. This keeps flipping on me. There we go. That's what I wanted to get to. Okay, so you guys can see a little bit better here. So we're talking about milestones today. So what are the important milestones that each kid should be? Now, these are milestones. These are actual things that they should be hitting exactly. And if they're not hitting these targets, that's a big deal. And those are warning signs. And we're going to be talking about that here a little bit too. But for a newborn, for this is birth, that first year, they should be starting to smile. They should be rolling over. They should start to sit up. They should crawl. They need to. They may even start walking a little bit. They even should be starting making some sounds, maybe a little bit of babbling once in a while. Those are things they should be doing, and that's we want to make sure that they're on track with those things. And if they're not, that's when the concerns start happening. So I want to make sure that we're on the right path on all those. Just lost my screen here. All right. So we want to make sure we're on track with all those milestones. And so one of the best ways to start everything is actually making sure they're getting the right stuff right from the very beginning. Breastfeeding is so important. Your breast milk is the perfect thing. It's the right amount of fats, the right amount of protein for your baby. So one of the amazing things is your body and knows what to do, and is so in tune with your baby's body. I've actually even seen it where the baby developed ear infection or a fever throughout the night. And if the mom had pumped before they went to bed, had pumped some milk, and then she fed the baby during the middle of the night, and then when she pumped the next morning, even the color of the milk was totally different, because the mom's body was able to actually change the consistency, exactly what it was making for that baby, because of what the receptors that she had in her breast was able to change that. Her body was able to change the makeup of the milk that she was providing for her baby. That's pretty amazing that your body is able to do that. So this is the best thing you can do for your baby. If you can, breast milk is always the best. Formula, unfortunately, most formulas out there are just pure sugar. And that's not what we want our babies having right there. We want to make sure they're getting the good stuff, the good fats, the protein for that development. Fat is so important for that brain development, for that neurological development. And that's where everything's starting right there in that first year of life, especially. And so many people will actually breastfeed for that first full year of life, if at all possible. And even recommended even sometimes even a little bit longer than that. It sometimes gets tough, but it's also convenient, but yet not at the same time, as any mother will tell you. And next, we want to get into, okay, when we start introducing food, what are we giving them? And when do we start giving them? So we want to start, when we start getting that, we want to stay away from that packaged food. We find out that a lot of these packaged baby foods, these squeezable things, a lot of them have been shown to have over 168 different chemicals in them. So that's not what we want to really start our baby with, right? So the best things are to do it yourself. You can start off with some good vegetables that you can steam, and then you can throw in the food processor. Avocado is great for them. It's again a good fat. You want to start implementing those foods when you start giving them actual food with that that pureed. We don't want to give them any solid foods until they actually have some teeth to chew. That's kind of the good, the predictor of when they're ready for that. Also, we want to be sure when we're watching ourselves when we're actually giving them these foods that we're you can still supplement, make sure you're getting that quality, the milk, those type things. We're staying away from those chemical laden foods as we're going through that. But here's the other big thing right now. This is a big issue for we look at screen time. And right now, 92% of 1-year-olds have actually used a mobile device. They've actually, because the parent has handed them the phone, it's kept the kid busy during that time where you're trying to get something done, you're talking to somebody, you need to keep them occupied for just this little bit, and they've handed the phone to them. Now, this can be a big issue because do you know that actually the screen time before 18 months can really affect their reading, can affect their memory, can affect their sleep, even their language development by this electronic usage. So we want to stay away from screens. We want to stay away from all these activities with that. I know it's really hard in our technology and our society because we're all constantly glued to our screens. That's something that we can all use less of. And we're going to talk about how that affects here later when we're talking about screen time as we get into the older ages here too. Some warning signs for babies, things that we want to, that when your kid's when you have a baby, things that you want to pay attention to if they're not able to latch on, if they're only going to one side, not the other, if they're having reflux, if they're spitting up, if they're having a lot of constipation or gas, trouble sleeping, respiratory issues, ear infections. These are all warning signs that there's something else going on, that they're developing some part of disease process in there. So we want to make sure that we're staying on top of everything there. If they're having this, obviously I recommend getting them checked out right away. In my office, when I take care of patients, anytime they're pregnant, a lot of times I get asked to come even right to the hospital and check their baby right there in that moment. A lot of times, as soon as they get home, they'll bring them first on the way home from the hospital. They'll bring them right into my office and have me check them right there. Some people don't understand chiropractic and kids. Obviously, adjusting a newborn baby is very different from a grown adult. So how we go about that is totally different, and we can talk about that a little bit more here a little bit later too. So obviously, it's important. We want to start young when we start taking care of our kids. And their nervous system is still developing. So this one's the most opportune time. They're still developing those curves in their spine. They're still growing. We want to make sure, especially it's so important right in that very neurological development, right in the very beginning, that they're getting what they need and there's not any interference, anything stopping their body from healing the way it's supposed to. So we want to really be starting off right away, right in the beginning, making sure that everything getting them checked, very early in their life. Instead of waiting till there's bigger problems later on. We look at going into more of the toddler phase, that 1 to 3 year, the milestones we're looking for, that they should be walking by themselves. They can hold a drink or a sippy cup in their hand. They can hold up something. They can actually start to talk. They actually even get some short phrases, some words. Again, be careful what you say because they're going to copy you in everything that you do in life. It's really fun right now. My kids are at an age where, like I said, 8 and 10, they're starting to jump into adult conversations now, and it's really fun having them. Even when we're talking about even the crazy stuff that's going on right now with other adults, they are actually able to put their 2 cents in and share and actually be part of the conversation already, which is really cool, which is really amazing, and hearing their thoughts and how they're perceiving everything. So it's really cool. So that's those things to come. So they should start, 1 to 3 years, they should start having some phrases start to jump in there. But the next I want to talk about is we see this a lot. A lot of people tell me that their kids are picky eaters. And about 25 to 35% of their parents will describe their toddlers as picky eaters, where they don't want to eat this. Well, it takes an average of, they say, about 11 times for a child to actually accept that new food, because it's different. Texture is different. Taste is different. Something they're not used to. So it's best to start off on the right foot. Start off with the better things. Start off giving them vegetables right from the very beginning, and add those fruits in later. add those, especially those things that we know are not good, those desserts, those treats. Those should be much later on. We should not be giving them that right away. It's even a good thing just for yourself. If you want to give yourself a treat, have it be that fruit, not be that ice cream. All right. Now, don't get me wrong. We've all had that. I have that. I'm not perfect. No one's perfect, but we want to do the best that we can as long as we're going those things. So picky eaters is a big thing that a lot of parents will talk about, but it's something we can work with as we go through this. It just takes resilience. It takes just staying with it. You can get through it here. Toys. There's a lot of toxins in toys, and it's not just the paint because the toy was from China. But right now, like say 1 in 3 toys were tested had toxic chemicals in them, from formaldehyde, BPA, PVC, lead, all these things. So you want to make sure that you're actually checking your knowing about your toys before you look at them. Make sure they're good quality toys. You want to be careful when you're getting old toys from somebody else, something like that. You never know what's been in it. So you do want to pay attention to the things that you're giving your kids, everything from the Legos to all those things. Obviously, you want to make sure they're not choking hazards, things like that when they're younger, because when they're younger, they're going to put everything in their mouth. That's how they explore. That's how they feel. That's how they know things. They feel with their mouth first. And that's what they're developing. They're playing with their tongue. That's where they're constantly sticking their fingers in their mouth. They're feeling that. They're both the sensory, both in their mouth, but also on their fingertips. So that's how they're starting to learn a lot of those things. We get into your preschool age, which is that 3 to 5 year range. That's when they can start. They can actually tell you different colors. They should be able to complete sentences, in at least 5 to 6 words. They should be able to play with other kids pretty well, and they should start doing that. They actually can get the words correctly. I remember when my daughter actually surprised me one day when she was a preschooler. She turned around and she said, "Well, actually, this," and she used it correctly. So that tells you I must use the word "actually" a lot, because here she was repeating something I did, but she actually used it correctly and do that. So those things that they should be starting to do. Again, if they're not hitting these milestones, this is where we need to pay even closer attention to what's going on. The digital world, we talked about, again, that screen time right now. Children between the ages of 2 and 5 watch about 32 hours of TV a week. 32. That's almost a full-time job watching TV every week. And these kids should not be watching TV like this. Screen time should be an hour or less when we look at this. But they're getting 32 hours a week. So that really adds up fast. This starts affecting sleep. Like I said, the blue light starts really affecting our body. It starts affecting how we're able to handle a lot of things here. It affects our metabolism. It affects our sleep. It also leads to a lot. This is one of those things that start to actually even lead to obesity, believe it or not. And also socially and social media type things like that. That starts really affecting how that child is able to work with others, cooperate, and actually creates isolation. As we see much more, especially as we get into adolescence and teen years. So when we want to replace that time of screen time with more outdoor play, only 5% of kids meet the daily exercise requirements. So they should be outside right now, especially as this weather's getting nice. They should be out there constantly. Think about summer when you were a kid. You were outside all day long, playing all day. But now kids are stuck inside. They're on the computer, on the mobile device, on the TV. They're not going outside. They're not getting fresh air. They're not getting vitamin D. They're not getting the coordination that they're learning from playing, being active, running, tripping, falling. All those things are important in it. Climbing. Those are things that they need to be doing to be able to move on to that next level, to be able to coordinate. And everybody's favorite one, bedtime, right? Anyone ever have their kid try and fight them and come up with any excuse in the world not to go to bed? My kids were been pretty good on that. I didn't have a whole lot of trouble with my kids because I had them playing so hard outside constantly that they were ready to go to sleep. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still those times, but they crash out. But at this age, like we're talking about, this toddler age, they should be getting at least 11 to 13 hours of sleep per night. So they should be getting enough rest. If you're not getting enough rest, your body's not healing. It's not getting a chance to get through everything. When we start getting into school age kids, and now this is that 5 to 12 years. Now they're able to describe how they're feeling a little bit more. They're developing those feelings. They also have that they want to be accepted by peers. So you're going to start seeing some things. This is the age where my kids are right now, and I'm really seeing a lot of this going on. With friend groups, how that works, how they interrelate with people, even the things that you got to be careful of the things that they're, even when they do watch TV or something like that. What are they watching, and how are they? How's that affecting how they interact with other people? They have a much longer attention span. They're able to hold your attention for a little bit longer. Now, granted, the average adult, their attention span is only 8 seconds right now, which is less than a goldfish, which you believe if you're teaching a class, I'm sure, even of adults. So kids, you can imagine a lot more. So it's a lot of coming back to where you were at. So also they're going to start increasing their independence. Really cool. My daughter is 10 and she's actually been baking cakes lately. So it's really cool because she's doing this all on her own. She actually baked like 3 cakes this last week, which is all on her own without us having to watch over her or anything like that. Well, it's great, but it's bad because now I have cakes around my house, which is something that's a whole nother story. But the fact that she's been she wants to be more independent. She wants to be doing these things. She wants to be able to help cook and do those things, which is awesome as she's learning to do that and growing up a little bit more. And they should be looking for more of that independence and wanting more of these type of things. Now, I want to kind of get into the childhood obesity. Like I said, right now, 1 in 5 kids, children or adolescents are considered obese. Not overweight, not fat, but obese. 1 in 5. So 20% of our kids out there right now are considered obese. Now, that really changes as we go up here. So if they're considered obese by the age of 2, they have a 1 in 5 chance of being a healthy adult at age 35. So if they're considered obese at the age of 2, they only have a 1 in 5 chance of being a healthy adult at 35. Now that number changes if they're still obese at the age of 35. It's a 1 in 10 chance of being healthy adult at 35 if they're obese at the age of 5. So this is where that really plays a factor in there. What are our kids doing? Are they active? Are we feeding them the right things? This is where these things really come into play. And what are the right things to feed them? So that's what I want to get into a little bit here. The school lunch obviously are lacking in nutrition. A lot of schools are still doing that whole food pyramid, which is beyond outdated. It's archaic, putting basically grains at the very bottom and building from that, and having water essentially at the top. Where we want to actually be having that essentially almost flipped upside down, what would be a much better model. But we want to make sure they're getting the right things. They've done some work at schools, but unfortunately most of it is not, and most of the food at school is not. It's unfortunately very processed. It's the cheap government peanut butter. It's not organic, not roasted almond butter. It's not the best quality stuff always. So at our house, I wish I could say we were perfect, and our kids took their lunch from home every single day, but that's not the case. But we try to do the best we can with that, and obviously I encourage that. Like I said, I'm not perfect. There's those times where we didn't get to the store, didn't get everything in time to be able to make a good lunch. So when we do these lunch, when you're making lunches, want to make sure they're not just a sandwich and chips and a dessert. Definitely don't want the sugary drinks, the sodas, even the juice boxes. A lot of those are just loaded with sugar. Something like a fruit roll-ups. I remember those. That is not food. So we want to make sure that we're actually getting a good thing. Now, 70% of moms actually gravitate towards the chemical-laden foods and the low-fat foods, which actually means they're actually more processed. So we want to stay away from that processing. We want to make sure that it's actual real food that your body can. So you should be doing, again, when you go to the grocery store, we're going to talk about this a little bit, you should be doing most of your shopping in the produce department. Now, even we look at, like, say, applesauce and yogurt, it can have lots of sugars in. Those fruit snacks can a ton of stuff. Energy bars, those are the things we want to be staying away from. We want to make sure they're getting good quality protein. So we want to make sure that we're sending them good quality things, not the Lunchables. That is not good stuff. So, but here's where the struggle comes into is, okay, how do I do this? How do I get them the right food? And especially as they're growing, they're eating something, maybe in the younger years, they're eating something different from what I'm eating right now. And how do I go about that? Now, I wish I had a simple, quick answer for you and said, oh, it's just real simple, but it is working. It is developing that. The best thing to do is a plan. And so we're going to talk about as we go shopping, having your plan of what you're going to be making for that week, what they're going to be eating during those times, so that you can actually meal plan ahead of time. You can actually prep ahead of time, and that will save you in those times of dire need. What do I need to do right now? So those are the things that you want to start looking at with that. We're getting to that, but also, ideally we want to make sure we're getting the most of our nutrition, most of our nutrients from the foods that we eat. But unfortunately, we don't get enough of that. So we do need to supplement some good supplements. We want to make sure they're getting good fats, they're getting their vitamin D, especially since we're not outside enough. A good quality multivitamin, some good probiotics, especially if they've had any type of antibiotics ever. We want to get that good gut bacteria in their body. So here's some examples of some things that I recommend for a lot of my patients right here. Even a detox powder, things like that. Also, if for those of you that are actually trying to get pregnant or want to have kids or even breastfeeding, the prenatal one this is a great one. It actually combines all the different ones you need in a nice little convenient little package that you can take with you. So that's something I really like to recommend for my pregnant moms or moms that are trying to get pregnant, or even shortly after here too, to help make sure you're getting everything that you need in that. Teenagers, everyone loves working with teenagers. It's funny because you'll have the teachers that just love working with teenagers, people that work with them, junior high school age kids. It can be a struggle at times for other people to try and relate and work with them. But it's those milestones. We're going through that awkward phase in life. If you look back at what you were like when you were a teenager, you might want to go, oh my, those years I want to forget, right? But we want to. This is where they should be showing that more increased independence. They should actually start be setting goals in their life, what they want to do, not just say sports, school, events, even future down the road in their life. College, occupation. They should be started thinking about those things. They should be, be able to actually express their feelings much better here too, a lot more versus when they're younger. They should start being more, being closer to that adult age, because supposedly we're adults when we're 18. I don't know about you, but I didn't make very many adult decisions when I was 18 compared to what I make now at 42. So they actually have a better sense of what's really right and what's wrong. And they should be able to make a lot of those decisions that way on their own without having outside influence. But right now, being a teenager, stress is huge. Not just at school. School stress is huge. But right now, 83% of teenagers said that school influenced their stress. So their stress is from school, but it's also a lot of stress from actually their peer group. Social media is huge on that. We hear the word bullying a lot. We hear that, and kids can be just ruthless to other kids. So we want to make sure that we're teaching them, what are the appropriate ways to talk to other kids, handle different situations. Right now, you walk into a room with a bunch of kids having a sleepover and or something like that, and every one of them's on their own individual device and no one's talking to the other ones in the same room. You'll see this is a huge thing, and there's so much stress with this. Actually, there's been reported that the average teenager right now has more stress than someone that was in a mental ward in the 50s. So that should really let you know there's a lot of stress out there, what they're going through. So we want to help them be able to handle that. How do they get through these things? How do they get through these stressful situations? But also, most importantly, how do it not be so stressful in the first place? And a lot of that's cutting out a lot of that social media. You can't cut it out completely, but how do we minimize that? How do we actually get more social interaction? Where right now, a lot of kids aren't even able to, a lot of teenagers aren't able to read facial expressions and be able to appropriately and be able to handle and understand what other people are feeling or thinking, and are being maybe very rude or mean or hurtful to their friends by not even knowing how to react, or being able to sense that their friend is hurting or happy or whatever it may be. Also, we look at what are the teenagers eating? A lot of people think, oh, because they have a fast metabolism, it's okay that they ate that junk food. Because we think of teenagers, a lot of times they think they're eating just junk food all the time, which unfortunately is a lot of case. I've worked a lot with some of the local high schools. I'll go in and I'll be helping at their teacher at their health class, and walking in first thing in the morning, and they have the Casey's pizza, a donut, and a Monster Energy drink. That is not setting them up for success in school, that's for sure. That's pure garbage right there. So we want to be staying with them, make sure they're getting a good quality food in their body. This is when their body's really growing. We think, oh, but they're not showing that right there. Their metabolism is so high, so we're not seeing them get fat right away. But right now this is the most important time where they're setting their trends for how they're going to make food eating decisions for the rest of their life right here. So we want to set them up appropriately on here, because if they start making those bad decisions now, because if you have a teenager, already there's only so much you can do on that. So we want to make sure we're setting them up ahead of that so they're able to make those better decisions when it gets to that point. We look at what I do as a chiropractor here, and so working with babies, everything, and kids, from everything from colic to where they're crying or they can't get they're fussy, asthma, bedwetting, ear infection. These are just some of the things that I see a lot of kids coming into my office with me. Trouble's not, they're putting them out knee pain. You'll hear growing pains a lot. Well, that's one of those things that we're able to help with, especially because kids are on those electronics that much more now. We're always in this position where they're down, looking down at something, that forward head posture, where they're not creating that curve, and they're actually losing that curve in their neck right from the very beginning. So we want to make sure that we're teaching them the right things from the beginning. And if they've gotten off on this is a time to correct it, because they're still growing. Once you're an adult, it's so much harder to make those changes. So we want to make sure we're getting that started right at the very beginning. And like I said, it can start right from the birth process itself. What's the doctor doing? They're grabbing hold of the head, pulling, twisting, turning, but what's still stuck inside? The shoulders, right? So you can see where damage can happen right away in the beginning. Because if your baby was laying here on the floor, I grabbed its head and started dragging along the carpet, you would never in a million years let me do that. I would never do that. But what's happening right there, so you can see where damage can happen even in the birth process itself. Not to mention if they're doing a C-section or using forceps or a vacuum extraction, so much damage can happen in that little baby right there in that moment. Not to mention we put them in a car seat where they're strapped into this little seat where it's convenient. It's great for travel. It's meant to be safe while they're in the car, but they're not meant to be stuck in this car seat all the time. It's putting their body in this C curve constantly. Those carriers, bouncers, bumbos, it's putting them in this horrible slouched posture to try and hold them up, and it's not using their core muscles, helping them develop like they need to neurologically. So when we're talking about, when we go shopping, what are some things that you need to do? So first thing we want to do, we want to plan ahead. If you make a plan, you will save so much more money by doing this. You make a plan and you only get the things that are on your list. So we have some great resources for you here. So we have a resource for you right now. So actually, I want to put this up here. If you text kids right now here, let's see if I can get this to go up here. There we go. If you text kids to the number 319-393-1555, it will actually send you a kid's recipe book. So these are an ebook right here. So you can have a ton of recipes that are good for you and your kids, and that they will love in here. So then you can pick the things that you want to make sure you have all the ingredients you need. So when you go to the store, you only get the things that are on your list. That's going to help a lot. One thing, you can add some beans, you got some lentils to your meal plan. You want to skip the processed foods. So a lot of times when I'm doing I'll do a shop with the doc. I'll teach you shop the horseshoe. That's the outside of the grocery store. That's where your produce is. You want to spend most of your time there. You have your meat section. But you want to stay away from the middle. The middle is where the Doritos and the Oreos and all the bad stuff is, the processed foods. We want to stay away from those things. So we want to basically shop the outside. That's where the best stuff's going to be for you. And then we want to make sure we're adding more fruits, more vegetables in your meal plan. You're not going to overdo it on that, but we want to stay away from those processed foods. We want to stay away from those breads, those grains, that pure sugar for our body. So the next we want to get into some while you're at the store. Also, you want to stock up. So instead of just buying the chicken breast that you need to make this one meal. Get enough chicken breasts, especially if it's on sale, if it's a good price. You want to make sure you're getting good quality stuff. But if you can find that at a good price, you want to stock up on it whenever you can. You can always throw it in the freezer, freeze it, use it later. Or if say you're going to grill some chicken breast, throw an extra 4 on so that you have meals later in the week. Makes your time a lot later in the week go a lot easier. You already have chicken for a salad. You have chicken for your sandwich, a lot of other things that you want to do throughout the week. Like be able to spot those bargains, know what's the typical, what you should be looking for in that. This is one of the things that we're really striving to do is come up with a place where, I want to do throughout the whole community and know, I can give you a whole list. Great, go to this place for this, go to this place for this. And here's the how much it should cost for each one of these things. The other thing we want to look at is want to compare the labels. Just because something was good last time doesn't mean it's good this time. So you should be reading the ingredients. That's the most important thing. Not that little graph, that little bar graph in there and tell you percentages. We want to look at the ingredients. What's actually in there? That should be the first thing that you're looking at. And if it's sugar in one of the first couple ingredients, you should be putting it back. If you can't pronounce anything, or if there's a color with a number by it, you should be putting it back. So you want to be looking at your labels. That's one of the first things you want to do. We want to look for the deals on the farmers market. That's a great way to do it. Farmers markets are supposed to be going to be opening up here for us this summer. It might be a little bit different than what we're used to, but that's also another great resource for you as you're going through there. There's great places around here like natural grocers. You can get in there. Everything there is organic, so you don't have to worry whether it's organic or not. Sorry, looking for my cursor. There we go. Some other tips for you at home. We want to make sure you can cook, you can freeze stuff. That's going to be one of the things you can do. That's so you can store that. Obviously, starting a garden, growing your own. We just actually planted most of our garden this last weekend, and so that's great. A lot of kids enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. They can be outside, be part of it. And when they get to see that they've actually helped grow something and they end up actually eating it, it's much more rewarding for you and for them. They really enjoy it and they enjoy being part of it. And they're actually asking to do more and more of it. And so it's a good, fun family activity. And it's showing them to be more responsible here later on. Next, I want to get into just a couple little action steps that you can do as we look forward to some things. For those of you that have concerns, maybe your kid's not meeting those milestones, or maybe you have a health concern for yourself. We actually kind of during this time, we have a special thing aside here. We're going to be doing free consults. I'm going to be doing. I've set aside some time in my schedule. I'm going to be doing free consults with anybody who's interested here. All you need to do is text consult to 319-393-1555, and actually you'll instantly be sent a little survey, and we'll get, once you fill that out, we'll get it right back, and we'll get right back to you and schedule that time with you for a free consultation with me. We'll be able to go over in detail any concerns that you have for both either you or your child or your entire family. And so that's totally free for the consult. We're want to make sure that you guys are getting all the needs you have, because I'm not able to address any and everybody's questions on here tonight, but I want to make sure that we are doing this. We will keep this feed open. I will check back on it later for if anybody does post any questions. But another way, excuse me, if you have questions, you can actually, here's my email address, askdrdietz@gmail.com. If you have any questions for me, you can always email me here. I will get back to you on that. Whatever your question may be, answer the best I can via email, or we can set up some time to do either phone consultation or some time here in the office. We can do a face-to-face of what's going on with you. With that, I wanted to share one thing. Right now, as we've been going through this whole quarantine, right, and we're finally coming out of this, we're starting to open things back up here in the state of Iowa. We're able to do a lot more things, and so that's exciting. We're starting to get more active, but unfortunately, a lot of people have been staying home. They've been eating junk food. They haven't been taking this time to actually work on themselves, exercise more, do this since they've had more time. So here's your first perfect time to start doing it if you haven't. But what we're going to be starting here, be on the lookout. We have our next project we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing a challenge. And we've actually titled it our Quarantine 15 because the joke is that everyone has gained 15 pounds over this quarantine. So we don't want to be doing that. As we look forward to where do we need to go? What do we need to do? And that's what we want to focus on is that. So no more excuses. We want to get right to it. So follow our Facebook page. Here we're going to be having a lot of information on that here for you shortly here also. Again, if you want to consult to that. Also, we're having, for those of you, if Carmela can actually, she'll post up here our, for you that are interested in supplements, some things. We have our store that's online right now. She'll post up the link for that. So you can actually get it shipped directly to your house. You don't even need to come in the office if you don't want to. They also have auto ship on there also, if you like, where you can have it just sent automatically. You don't have to go on every time, and it's set up for the amounts that you would typically person would use in a month's period of time. So you don't even have to reorder. And when you do this, you actually save quite a bit of money by doing that. So highly encourage anybody to do that. Able to save some money and get some really good quality supplements. If you have questions for what are the best supplements for you and where you're at, I can answer some of those questions. Again, we can do that through that consult, or you can just email me directly and we can try and get hold of each other that way. And do we have a question?
Yes. Asking about, do you recommend teenagers do intermittent fasting?
So the question was, do we recommend teenagers doing intermittent fasting? It can be done. It's more on a individual basis. I would recommend that on. Teenagers, every teenager is different. You can have the very large obese teenager. You can have the teenager that's bigger than a lot of adults, to the teenager that looks like there should be in elementary school. You can have all different things. So that's a really hard question to ask on that. Now, if they maybe, especially if they need to slim down a little bit, maybe they are fit in that obese category or the overweight category. That's something that most can do. But I don't want to say specifically for your child without knowing more about your child. But yes, that is safe for most kids to do at that level. It's okay to miss a meal once in a while. That also comes into more the whole discipline thing. If your kids won't eat what you're doing, guess what? They're not going to starve themselves to death. They will eat eventually. If you hold tough, and I know it's tough, but it's something you can do if they miss a meal once in a while. Intermittent fasting for especially a teenager, an older teenager, should be fine if that's helps reach their goals and your goals for them. Do we have any other questions on there that I didn't see?
Not right now.
Okay. I just lost what I was doing. Sorry. Here. Just going to switch over and see the other comments in there. Okay. Looks like that's everything from that. Again, if you have any questions, you can just email me at the askdrdietz.com, and we're doing consults. All you gotta do is the consult here. The other one that I was going to show you again, I'll remove that one here and I'll show you that text kids to 319, and that will give you these. We have some great resources for you. We actually have a meal planner in there and some recipes for you for your kids. So with that, you can also follow us. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, YouTube, which you guys are watching this on already. Discover Health Chiropractic. We're always posting things. We're posting workout videos, and we're going to have our new Quarantine 15 coming out here real soon. So make sure you're paying attention to that. We're going to do a challenge with you, help you get back to where you either were or more where you want to be. Especially as we're looking into summer, everyone wants to be in bikini and swimsuit shape, right? So that's where we want to get to. We want to make sure, and again, you are the example for your kids. Make sure you're following these things all for yourself here also. So with that, thanks so much for coming on tonight. Really appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Have a great night and stay healthy, my friends.